Welcome to The Real in Real Estate, your gateway to the source. I'm so glad you're here. We're all about diving into the nitty-gritty of real estate, sharing insights, tips, and some awesome interviews straight from the industry's beating heart. From the latest trends to cool investment strategies, we've got you covered. Let's explore and uncover all the essential tools and knowledge you need for navigating the ever-evolving world of property and housing. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Real in Real Estate, where we bring the experts and the facts to you. No need to get the information secondhand. We've got it right here. And today we're going to talk about staging, the importance of staging a home, why stage a home, what the benefits are when you do stage the home. And we have an expert here with us, Natalie Hartman of Morphe Home Staging and Design. And I'm just going to read a quick bio here about her. Natalie's the owner of Morphe Home Staging and Design. It's a premium home staging and design company that transforms homes by delivering unique and creative insights on both interior and exterior spaces. Natalie is dual certified in home staging and design and a member of the only accredited home staging program, the Real Estate Staging Association. They help take the stress out of the home selling process. Their goal is to create beautifully designed and staged homes for a faster sale with maximized profits. We all want that. Natalie will transform homes by decluttering and bringing in furniture, artwork, and accent decor to help home buyers understand the potential of every room. When buyers walk through the home, they'll be able to imagine the house as their own. Well, that's exactly what we want, because if they make that emotional connection, they're going to buy.
Absolutely.
So, welcome, Natalie.
Thanks for having me, Jean.
So to start off, why don't you just give, if you don't mind, a brief explanation of what staging is and why that's important?
Sure. I know there are some sellers who don't know what staging is, so that's a great question. It's the process of preparing a home for sale by enhancing its appeal through furniture arrangement and decor.
Perfect. And give us one thing I find is people in general, everybody doesn't quite understand the difference between staging and decorating. I think there's a definite difference, but let me get your take on it. Okay. You're the expert.
Sure. So the key with staging, it appeals to the majority of buyers versus decorating or designing a home. It's going to appeal to the homeowner's taste. So we keep that in mind whenever because we offer both services, whenever we are staging, our goal is to appeal to the majority of the buyers.
Yes, and I think it's oftentimes hard for a seller to understand that. One, they think what they've done is wonderful, and oftentimes it is. And two, they can't see necessarily the difference between staging and decorating. Decorating is how they live. Staging is how we want to attract a buyer so that they can come in and use their furniture and live any way they want. I once had a client who, the home was staged beautifully. It was gorgeous. I wanted to walk in, sit down and live there, but he kept saying, I couldn't live like this. Nobody lives like this. Actually, people do live like that, but I wasn't going to argue with him about it. But
Sure.
He couldn't understand the importance of what had been done because he couldn't see himself living there. And of course, after it was staged, the home sold quickly and for a very nice dollar amount. But I find people are not visual enough to understand the difference oftentimes. Do you have to struggle with that sometimes?
I do. Key to that is whenever I do meet with the sellers or my clients, I always will tell them, you may not love everything I bring in, but please keep in mind, the staging is done to appeal to the buyers, not how you would live. And so I think by educating them, it helps, a lot of their questions and what maybe their neighbors told them or their friends have told them. A lot of that, they take that to heart. And then once I actually go over and educate them and sit down and have that one-on-one with them, most of the time, the sellers understand.
Yeah, I have two, and I'm sure you have lots of stories like this. I had two clients, both around the same time, actually. Didn't want to stage, didn't want to spend the money on staging. I spend the money on staging. So we made an agreement. I said, okay, fine. So let's try a month. The other one wanted to do 6 weeks. That's fine. So let's try a month. If we don't get any offers, then we're gonna discuss staging again. So it came a month. We had no offers. So we sat down and talked about staging, and they finally agreed to do it. So they got their stager, came in. This happened to be an empty house because they had already moved on. Came in, they decorated like the living area, dining, kitchen area. It was all one floor and the primary bedroom. Within less than 10 days, we had an offer and it was a full price offer. But we had wasted 4 weeks waiting. And it was either, well, do we lower the price of the house several $1,000s, or do we spend a smaller amount and stage the home? Well, fortunately, they made the right choice.
And 99% of the time, that is the case. When if they don't stage at the very beginning, once the home is listed, and they end up staging, I have not had any cases where I've come in at that point, staged the home, and the home has not gone under contract within at least 15 days. It's because buyers like to see, they like to visualize how they would live, what can fit in a room, what size bed can go here, how the furniture can be arranged, especially homes that have maybe, rooms that are a little bit awkward. So those are my favorite because I can go in and place the furniture and they don't even look at the room when it comes to how the layout is of the room. They're looking at, oh, okay, well, this is how I can, utilize my furniture in this room for it to make sense. So a lot of buyers are visual.
Yes, they absolutely cannot picture something in their head. They have to physically see it. My husband is like that. I could explain it to him. I could even sketch it out, but he just doesn't quite get it. Where I'm the opposite. You can explain something to me and I already have a picture in my head. I know exactly what it's going to look like. So I had a client that loved the house, walked into the dining room. It had one wall that was painted red. It was a pretty red, but it one wall painted red. And that just threw her off for the whole house. I could not live in a house with a red wall. I couldn't handle this in my dining room. I said, sweetie, I'll buy the can of paint. It's one wall. We can get this painted. But she had such a hard time getting past that. And I'm sure you run into that all the time.
I do. And the rooms also look a lot smaller whenever they're not staged or they're painted certain colors, they're darker. So that tends to give the illusion of a smaller room. So for all those reasons, usually once I go over that and show them the difference, they can see something visually of a home that, was painted, but the before photos, and then they see it then staged. And even if it's just with the homeowner's furniture, if it's painted, what a world of difference it makes.
Yes. Well, give us a little overview of your process. So Mrs. Smith calls and says, okay, my realtor's finally convinced me to stage the house. What do you do? How do you proceed?
So clients can call me, and then I would be happy to send them over our investment guide. But we also have a pretty seamless process. Just because I am the only stager in my company and designer, I try to keep things pretty seamless when it comes to processes. I want someone to be able to go to my website, request a quote. I then will send them an email that has an investment guide that goes over my training as well as the staging process and then pricing. Also in that email, they'll receive a link to schedule the consultation online. So they have the ability to look at my entire month schedule and find a date and time that works best with their schedule. So that's with any of my staging consultations, whether the home's vacant or occupied. Clients have the ability to do that. Start the process off that way. Once the consultation is done for vacant homes, they'll receive a quote, going over various options. If we discuss doing some rooms, and so I can give them options of 3 rooms, 4 rooms, and they're able to see the pricing right there in the quote. And then as far as occupied homes, usually they'll opt for the detailed report or our audio recording of the walkthrough consultation. So they'll receive that after the consultation for occupied homes. And then if there's any further that we recommend, any further furniture, decor, or anything like that we recommend bringing in, they'll receive a quote for that. And of course, then the process is pretty streamlined as far as vacant and occupied homes. We'll bring in the furniture for staging day, and then we have either a 30 or 60-day term, and then we'll pick up the furniture at the end of that term or once the home is under contract.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about that for a second. The client still lives there. They have all of this furniture and usually too much. So how do you, it's got to be decluttered and some furniture is going to have to be moved out. Do you take care of that, or does the homeowner, how does that work?
So what's great about our occupied home staging, I typically will always recommend a detailed report, because in that detailed report, it's going to go room by room, starting on the outside of the home to the interior of the home. And we basically will give them recommendations on what to do with each and every room. So each room has a page. So it's basically like a checklist that they can check off and tackle room by room. So that's typically what we'll recommend for occupied homes, because that's a good starting point. And then if there's something like an old sofa that's maybe darker and we want to bring something in new, that's when we will recommend and give a quote for bringing in that furniture. But ultimately, it is up to the seller if they want to move forward with that part.
Right, right. And you mentioned exterior also. Are you talking about curb appeal or what are you talking about?
Curb appeal. So we go over power washing, remulching the flower beds,
Mm.
trimming trees, and we actually give them recommendations for local tree trimmers, window cleaners, everything. We provide them with, we have a page of all of our preferred vendors. So we even give them storage options. So if there's an option for storage, locally, or I'll also do a recommendation for a pod. Someone who's not moved out of their house yet, a lot of times doesn't want to move, and hire movers to move their items to storage and then to their new home. So a pod is a great option. So we provide them with all of those recommendations, including lighting recommendations for the home.
So just as an average, and it always depends on the time of year or many circumstances. From beginning, when you first consult with someone and they decide that they want to move forward, about how long does it take to get the process started and theoretically completed?
I would say about 5 to 7 business days. That's a good average. Now, busy season could be a little bit longer, but
Right.
a lot of my clients are repeat customers. So they kind of know how I work. And usually once they get that listing or they're ready to sell, they'll contact me, right then, so we can make sure we have ample time to accommodate them.
Do you get a lot of people at the beginning of the process or during the process when they go, well, it didn't sell, maybe we should try something else, or is it kind of balanced?
A lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of my clients are repeat customers, so they know the value of the staging I do for them. So they've had a great experience with me. The home is sold. A lot of times, even with their occupied homes, they've already sold me because they've worked with me multiple times and
Yeah.
they know the results that I provide their sellers with. So a lot of times, I probably count on less than one hand the times the home hasn't sold within the first 30 days.
Oh, I believe that. I believe, and maybe even less than
And that's
less
over
than that.
almost 5-year period. So I feel like that speaks volumes.
So how do you handle like the client that kept telling me nobody would live like this? Do the clients when they're living there or even when they're not living there, do you find that you have to convince them to listen to you to move or do they get in your way?
No, usually I feel like education is key. So the more I can educate them and sit down and have a personal conversation with them where I'm not selling them anything, but the fact that I'm there to help them. It's not my home. I'm not doing it for
Right.
me. And obviously I want them to have results so that their realtor will continue to use me and hire me. So my goal is to get that home sold for them and to help them. And I think doing that along with showing them good before and afters, so you really have something visual for them to look at and they can
Perfect.
see the difference it makes really, really helps.
Well, while we're talking about visual, why don't we try sharing the screen and you show us some of your before and afters? I love before and afters, and I'm sure everybody else does too.
Okay, so we will start. I can start at the design. So this is
Sure.
an example of a design client that basically they had a pipe burst and they wanted to completely redo their home. So that's their bedroom. So we just did little things here and there as far as painting. We got rid of a lot of their bulkier furniture to brighten up the room. It
It
was a
looks so
beautiful.
much bigger.
It does. I don't know why some of my photos are not showing in here. Let's see. There we go.
Okay.
And things like this formal dining room, they never utilized it. It was kind of just there. And so they're empty nesters and they wanted a room to basically, enjoy wine with their friends. So we turned it into a room that they could utilize. So if you notice the light fixtures are changed, the fans are changed, there was painting that was done, and this is obviously design. And then this is vacant home staging. So you can tell the floor is like an epoxy. And so obviously it can appear quite cold if you don't have it staged. So that's another reason why this particular builder uses me to stage his new builds. Beautiful home, but obviously you can see the difference in what it makes whenever you stage the home. And then we've got another vacant home. It just makes a world of a difference. It's just more welcoming. The rooms actually look a lot larger once the furniture is
They
in there.
do. On the bottom photo, the one on the left and the one on the right, totally different. The one on
Mhm.
the right, you just want to walk in and sit down. It's like, okay, I'll write the check. The one on the left is just,
Cold.
how do I decorate this? What do I do? Where's the sofa go? And you've answered all those questions for them.
Absolutely. Here's our occupied home staging.
Ah,
I love doing these because if a seller is really willing to put in the work, like this seller was, they were willing to move out their old furniture, repaint. They actually smoked in the home, so we wanted to
oh,
repaint all
yeah.
the rugs in the home. If you look at that mirror on the top left photo, you can see that I do try to reutilize their own furniture. So if you look
Okay.
at the bottom right photo,
There it is.
yep, I reutilize that in a different area. And this was like a flex room. So a lot of buyers may question, what do I do with this room? It's right off the breakfast and kitchen area. So we wanted to present it as, I mean, this could even be a playroom for kids
It
so that
could, yeah.
they can keep an eye on the kids.
Mhm.
Or it can be a separate area for them to watch TV if they're in the living room. So you can see what a world of a difference it makes. Just some paint and just changing out some things.
Well, and the photos on the left, the before photos, all my eye sees is the big red blobs on both of those photos. And I don't really see the wall or the floors, where on the right, after you're done, I see the entire room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that rug was a custom rug on the left-hand side, and it was probably very expensive. But for staging, we want to stay away from red. So we typically, anything that's red, just because it's such an intimidating color, we try to get rid of any kind of red. And do you see how much more relaxing the photos? I
Oh,
just like they're just
absolutely.
fighting versus
Absolutely.
the left. And then here's another occupied home. So in this one, I actually reutilize a lot of their furniture. If you look at the bookshelves on the right, I
Mhm.
had them pack away one, but then they utilized two. I moved the sofa to the right. I always try to imagine where the photographer is going to take the photo and what's going to look
Ah,
best
that's important.
listing photos, because that's initially where we draw them in at is the listing photos.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Same thing with the bottom photo. They got rid of the china cabinet and packed that away. And then I brought in upholstered chairs that are brighter and lighter
Mhm.
versus the wood tone chairs that they had before.
Well, you
And then they,
repainted also, didn't you?
so we provide them with our recommended vendors, a few of them for each service, just so that way they can do the research, unless they have one, a handyman or someone already. But we try
Right.
to give them all of the info that they're going to need to make those changes. We try to make it as easy as possible. This is the same house in the kitchen. If you look at, there's no
Wow.
spice rack by the window. It just, you're able to focus on the beauty of the home. Now that it's painted, the floor actually looks better because I think, and if they hadn't have painted, I feel like someone would have come in and thought, man, I've got to get new cabinets or paint them, change the floor out. But really, once it's painted, you don't really need to change. The floor looks fine.
No, it doesn't even look like the same floor, even though it is, because of the colors change.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And the bedroom looks larger. The way they had it, I get why they did that. Maybe they thought they were being creative. It's fine for living, but for photo purposes, we wanted to display the pool out those,
Oh,
beautiful windows, and we didn't want to block that. And we wanted to make the room look as large as possible because it's a primary bedroom.
and it does look much bigger.
I've got some other ones of my Airbnb design, but we can save that for another time. All the photos are on the website, so I have tons of before and afters on my website.
Well, the only thing I wanted to say is the top left here, the room looks so tiny. You're thinking, what do you do there? And then over on the right, you put furniture in it and it looks great. I mean,
That's
I
a king
never would
size
have thought.
bed. Absolutely. That's a king size bed. And as you know, with Airbnbs, you want to have larger beds if possible in the rooms. We want to sleep the most guests as possible. And so that's why we did it that way for that particular room. But no, it does. When I saw the photos of it, because this one's a new bronze Fulls, before I went there, I was like, oh, wow, I don't know what size bed I'm going to be able to fit in there. And I'm going to try to do a king. And it fit a
It
king
looks
and
great.
it looks
Yeah.
so much larger.
Well, while we have the pictures up too, let me ask you about lighting, because to me that is so very important. I had a client who had the typical Killam beige that everybody used a few years ago, and he had these kind of yellow lights over the entire house. You walked down the hallway and you felt like you were in a prison or something. So I got him to change out all of the lights. I mean, every single ceiling light, the chandeliers or the over the dining table and the island. It was such a huge difference. It was unbelievable.
And I will show clients, sellers, photos of homes that maybe didn't change out the lighting, but they did the recommendations in my report, for the occupied homes, and what a huge difference it would make if they just changed the lighting. I'll show them someone who did change the lighting. And I'm very honest with sellers. I try not to upsell them if I don't have to on, my services, bringing in additional furniture. But I always will tell them, if you do nothing else, if you just change the lighting and declutter your home,
A huge
it will make a
difference.
world of a difference. And I think showing them something visual for them to see the difference as someone who did and didn't really does help.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you're able to do that. Well, are there any services you offer that we haven't covered or talked about yet? Did I miss
Um,
something?
No, I usually like to say we do everything that involves staging and design. So we do Airbnb design, full service design. We even do furniture rental for corporate housing. And then, of course, everything staging. So all of my services are listed on the website in great detail. So definitely, if anyone is interested or needs staging or design, there's further details on all those services.
Well, we will have your website and everything in the information part of the podcast, but go ahead and give us the name of your website.
Sure, it's morphehomestaging.com.
And that's MORPHE homestaging.com, right?
Yes, homestaging.com.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Well, Natalie, this has been amazing. I love it. I'm sure everybody else loved it. Thank you for bringing all the before and afters, because as we talked about, everyone is visual, so we need to see it. And it's just amazing. I think hiring you saves clients so much money and allows them to get more money for their house. And I think everybody should consider this. So hopefully we can continue to convince our clients to make that move.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And hopefully we'll have you back again with some new pictures.
Yes, ma'am. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Thanks for tuning in to The Real in Real Estate, your gateway to the source. Be sure not to miss our upcoming episodes loaded with fantastic insights, expert tips, and all the latest trends in the property scene. Don't forget to stay connected with us on our Trilogy Realty Group socials: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and even TikTok. Until next time, take care.